All right. Good evening, everyone. My name's Carlin Crowley. You don't know me yet, but you're about to. I'm the incoming provost at Ohio Wesleyan. And if you don't know, a provost is a fancy word for chief academic officer. And I'm so excited to be here. I'm really thrilled. So tonight is a night for returning students, and you get to see what it will look like to return to your beloved campus this fall, either learning remotely or being here in person. And what's also special about tonight is you're going to get to see faculty that you know and care about and have a connection with talk about what's most compelling about their courses and what they're looking forward to in the fall. So as I mentioned, tonight is really about the academic experience, though Vice President for Student Affairs, Dwayne Todd, will also take some questions toward the end. We've spent 48 hours answering a number of questions that we'll address thematically with various people. Ashley Beiser, Linda Hall will answer some of those as well. And once we get to those, if you have remaining questions in the chat, we'll try to answer them with subject experts in real time. So I want to assure you that you'll have a little time to do that. I'm going to turn it over now to President Rock Jones to welcome.
Thank you, Carlin. Good evening, everyone. It's great to be with you this evening and to see familiar faces and familiar names. We have missed you. You had to leave so quickly in the spring, and I know it was disruptive and disappointing and probably at times frustrating, but I also know I heard from so many of you about how much you appreciated the work of the faculty in the spring and the attention that you were able to receive as you completed the spring semester. The faculty has been working, as you will hear this evening, so very hard over the course of the summer to prepare for the fall and to prepare to welcome those of you who can return to campus, back to campus for instruction on campus. Those of you for whom it is important to remain remote, you'll be having opportunities and you'll be hearing about that as well. But as we come together this evening, just a couple of weeks away from the beginning of the fall semester, all of us on campus are excited about the opportunity to have students back on campus, to bring the campus back to life, and to begin the work that is why we all chose to be at Ohio Wesleyan, and that is to work with you on the opportunities that come to you through an Ohio Wesleyan education. The fall will be different. There's no doubt about it. For those of us who are on campus, it will be different. Certainly for those of you who may need to be remote, it will be different. And yet the things that are most important about an OWU education will be consistent. The opportunity in every class you take to get to know your professor, to have individual attention and mentoring and guidance from your professor, the opportunity to interact with students in the shared academic journey, and the opportunity to engage in experiences outside of the classroom that help shape who you are and who you can become as an OWU student. We look forward to your return, and I'm looking forward to hearing from some of the members of the faculty this evening about what is in store for us in the next couple of weeks. So Carlin, let me return it to you and let's proceed with the program.
Great. All right, Linda Hall, the Associate Dean for Academic Performance, whom all of you know, is going to introduce our faculty, whom you also know, but they will say their name and area and share with us something that's a concrete example, compelling and exciting, and the modality they're going to offer in classes this fall. Thanks, Linda.
Thank you. I'll reiterate what Rock said. We have really missed you. And I'd also like to thank you all. I think last spring was a huge adjustment for everyone. Not only were you troopers to help us get through that, but you also were very generous in terms of responding to surveys. And that has really helped us to learn a lot about what we did well and what we could do better, and to help us be better prepared for this fall. But to tell you a little bit about how we're better prepared for this fall, I'll turn this over to the faculty, and we'll start with Susan Gnosty, who'll tell you about an exciting opportunity.
Sorry. Hi, everyone. I just want to repeat what everyone else has said. I really miss all of you, and I'm really looking forward to seeing all of you back on campus. I'm really excited about all the classes that I'm teaching. I've got UC 160, you guys all know that. And then my regular 3 courses, I'm really excited because of the opportunities the pandemic has created for me to rethink things. But the course I want to talk about is a new one, which you may or may not know about, but you will know about soon, is a course called How to Change the World. And it builds off the innovative nature of the COVID course from the summer. And it takes that innovative approach, and it's looking at the structural problems, issues, things that we just weren't aware of or were aware of but chose to ignore, and to examine them from multiple different perspectives, multiple different topics, and from different disciplinary approaches. And this course is going to have, it's a design that we haven't had before. It's over 3 classes. The first is the global day, and the remaining 2 days are in different tracks. So there's a humanities track, and I'm the coordinator of the humanities track. There's a natural sciences track, and there's a social sciences track. And so students will, if they choose to enroll in this class and they take the full course, they can enroll in those different tracks, and they can tackle the problems, the themes, the topics that we're going to be engaging with in those different tracks, and students can enroll in up to 2 of them. It's going to be very interactive. It's going to be offered in different ways. There's going to be a fully remote version. There's going to be an in-class version. And there will be hybrid versions as well. So in order to accommodate all the different students' needs and professors' needs as well. And the way the global day is all online. And then the days of the tracks depend on how the professor has set up the class. One of the things that we're doing is we're going to have a lot of student interaction over what's going to happen, and we're going to have the interaction in ways that can accommodate different needs and what's going on. So I'm really, really excited about this course, and just working together and the debates I'm having with my colleagues. It's really wonderful. And in terms of why now, and thinking about coming to OWU, this is the type of course, it gets to the heart of what the liberal arts is, right? Take a problem and tackle it from a bunch of different perspectives. That's ultimately what we're doing here. And to think critically and to engage with it. So it's the type of course that's just a natural fit at OWU, and we would have seen it develop at OWU. The pandemic just accelerated it. The COVID course set the model for it. And so I'm really excited. I don't think we would have seen something like this right now had it not been for the situation that we're in. And I will say I am working with colleagues, friends from grad school, let me be honest. We've been in touch, and I've been working on other syllabi projects with them, and I see what they're doing in their courses. And I'm just seeing kind of the same old thing. And I'm working on that. It's very interesting. And I'm going to translate it to OWU, what's going to work at OWU, what makes our learning distinctive. And I'm doing that. And I'm also working on the syllabus with my coordinators and collaborators on the How to Change the World course. And it's really something different. And I'm not seeing it at other places. So I'm really excited. At what we're tackling with. It's really engaging. There's wonderful literature out there. And I'm really excited to be able to work with a great group and to see the students and see what you guys come up with. So I think I went over my 3 minutes. I'm sorry, I'm so excited.
Thank you, Susan. So there's a new opportunity that you may not have known about. Depending on which tracks you decide to pursue with that course, if you want to sign up, they will count for distribution credits. So it's a way to earn some of your graduation credits. So now there's all kinds of opportunities there. And now I'll turn it over to John Krieger.
All right, I'm assuming I am being heard. And I want to reiterate some of what's been said so far. I've been actually in touch with students over the summer, and it's great to be at least virtually in touch with them. And I look forward to getting back together this fall one way or the other, virtually or in person. Again, John Krieger, I am Environment Sustainability Program and also Geography. I am joining you from my front porch, which is really nice. It's a nice day here in Columbus, except there's a marauding cat, so hopefully she went away. Let me say a little bit about some changes in technology. And like Susan said, I think this COVID has really brought on some changes that are positive in many ways, maybe things that we're rushing into faster than we might have normally done it, taking on things that are a little more frightening. Faculty, like to take on a new, say, technology, which I'm doing, in many ways is scary, but I've also grown used to really the close relationship with students and working through those kind of situations and learning together. I've long taught mapping courses at Ohio Wesleyan with geographic information systems software that runs on desktop computers. And what I'm doing this fall is diving into cloud and web-based GIS with an online version of the software called ArcGIS Online. It's actually pretty sophisticated, pretty expensive. We get a good deal, an educational deal at Ohio Wesleyan. So in a way, there's a similar concepts and things in the course, but a way brand new technology. Completely web-based, so it's going to work on any computer with internet. So that's great, whether you're virtual or there in person, right? It works, and it works on phones, it works on tablets, it works on desktop computers. So that really makes this work, but it also opens the student work and our work in the class into a much more public space. We have existing access to existing detailed digital maps and data that are out there in the cloud. Databases full of social, environmental data. We're able to construct web maps and map applications that go up on the internet, right, in a very accessible way. We can also collect our own data, and again, in an easy way through our using our phones, literally walking around the environment, right? Your phone is a built-in GPS device, and just collecting data. And it feeds the data you collect in the field directly into this web-based map, which is, of course, there on the screen, very shareable. So this really makes it easy to go out and do all sorts of interesting projects. And then we can combine our own data with existing data. One of the things we're going to do this fall, we're going to work with the folks in the City of Delaware Parks, and they have some interest in mapping out things like trees and park information. So some of it will be getting out in the field and do that in Delaware. We'll also have some alternative projects if students don't happen to be on campus. What's interesting there is we can start to map that data out, collect the data, map it out, but then we can start to look at a lot of other data like census data. We can look at how it interacts with race, how it interacts with income and other kinds of things like that. So I think it's really exciting. We're going to have a focus on environmental and social justice projects this fall. And I think just to wrap it up here, from my perspective, with our moderate sized courses in this cloud-based technology, sort of wedding this cutting edge technology to the course conceptual content. And that's really important. It's sort of pushing both ends of those. Teamwork is really important. Teamwork between students and faculty, between different students, but also with the community is a big part of this. And we're in the realm here of things like crowdsourcing, citizen science, participatory mapping. Ultimately, this is really about that kind of teamwork, about working closely, solving problems, building community with ourselves and a class, but also with the actual community, collaborating beyond that. And that'll happen whether their students are there or in person or virtually. All right, thank you.
Thank you, John. Christina Bogdanov from the Fine Arts Department, would you take over next?
Thank you, Linda. For students that may not know me, hi, my name is Christina Bogdanov and I teach studio art in the Fine Arts Department. Specifically, I teach courses in ceramics, 3D foundation, and drawing. Most studio courses this fall will be taught in a hybrid mode, including in-studio demos and guided work time, in addition to remote content delivery. Both of our buildings, Edgar Hall and Haycock Hall, allow for ample space between workstations for hybrid teaching. In general, students will be responsible for their own supplies and tools, while community equipment will have regular sanitation protocols in place. Students will have access to the art studio spaces outside of class time, but buildings will close for a period each night for a proper cleaning. I can say with confidence that fine art faculty have always invested a significant amount of time and energy into building connection with students, regardless of teaching modality. In studio arts, we're all deeply interested in working one-on-one with students and in groups. And so we have been preparing presentations and assignments having remote learners in mind. All assignments, hybrid or remote, will be introduced through a handout and a demonstration online, either in a video conference or recorded video. And each assignment will have a folder on a designated online platform containing the handouts, videos, digital images of examples, as well as external resources to help students do the work. Critiques of work in progress are essential for both hybrid and remote learners, as well as one-on-one feedback. So remote students will photograph and post their work in progress to a shared Google Drive where a faculty will be able to view it and offer suggestions and assistance, both written commentary and through individual video conferencing. All students in the class, whether in person or remote, will photograph and post their finished work to another designated shared Google Drive. And this will enable all students to be part of the peer feedback exchange related to the work done in the course. And so I would like to share a self-reflection about this, about the teaching modality from last spring that started in person and then ended up being remote. And it's relevant to this model that I've just described. I asked my students in the drawing class to document their works in progress, and I actually documented their work as well, sort of thinking as a backup documentation. And my documentation became very helpful for students in teaching them about the importance of documentation and proper documentation, even when it's artwork in progress. What is a good angle? How to capture detail, and so on. And we used our phones for this activity. And the documentation started building up a collection of images, and it became some sort of a time machine. And we used the images to create discussion boards for group critiques, but also as we reached the finals, students could track the progress of their work. Unlike ever before, they had documented how has their work developed, what were peers' suggestions, what were my suggestions, their own reflections. And all this accumulated into a very meaningful source of images and notes. So students had their final works in the format of the final online portfolio, but I also had a working portfolio where they and I as an instructor could see where the improvements occurred. So I'm really excited to see where technology steps up significantly and how this practice of documentation and time machine will be helpful and will continue helping our students engage meaningfully in developing their work. I'm also excited, if I have time, maybe to share some other things we plan, but I will end here. Thank you.
Thank you, Christina. When I asked faculty to participate in this, they all had so many opportunities, so many ideas of what they wanted to share. I kept saying 3 minutes, 3 minutes, 3 minutes. I hope you can see their enthusiasm. And last but not least, we'll hear from Laurie Anderson.
Hi, everyone. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Laurie Anderson, and I teach in the Department of Botany and Microbiology. And my area is ecology, which is the study of interactions between organisms and their environment. And to give you a sense of the type of work that I'm doing in my hybrid and online classes this year, I want you to imagine an invasive plant, a plant introduced from another environment. So let's call it plant A. It comes in, it starts competing with a species, plant B, in that environment. Let's say it's in Ohio. And we see that the invader outcompetes plant B and it dies, and it's very tragic. We lose biodiversity, all that kind of thing. My question for you, and this is a question I ask whether we're in person or remote, this is the same question I might ask in an in-person class. So what happens if that same invader A comes into the environment, but we're in the southern part of the range? Let's say that we're in Kentucky, the southern part of the native species B range. Does the invader have the same advantage in that southern part of the range? Well, luckily, some of you are going to be remote in your home areas, and we can actually use your environment as a study site to answer that question. And I have not been idle this summer. I have actually secured money from the National Science Foundation to develop remote learning exercises where students are collecting data to answer real ecological questions in their home environments. so that we can answer questions just like that, which are very important ecological ideas. Do species act the same way in different environmental contexts? What if the invader is in a city environment versus a rural environment? What if there's been a lot of human disturbance to a site versus a site that's relatively pristine? What if you're on a campus? What if you're in a backyard? So my students are going to be acting as researchers and collecting data on plant behavior wherever they are. If they happen to be on campus, we'll collect the data on campus. If they need to be at home, we'll collect the data at home. The other thing I want to emphasize is that in my field of ecology, big data sets and looking at data over large spatial scales is extremely important, as is using computer tools to analyze and interrogate that data, question the data, learn things about the world through the data. So using computers does not put you at any kind of disadvantage in terms of pursuing a scientific career. You will actually gain skills during this remote and online experience that can be extraordinarily helpful to you in a scientific career. So we may not emphasize exactly the same things as I would with an in-person class, but we'll be learning a lot of valuable skills that you really need going forward. And actually, a lot of the science faculty, myself included, are planning to teach the lab portions of the class in person because we know how important those hands-on skills are. I happen to teach a lot of my labs outdoors anyway, so I will be using the campus as a learning laboratory, and we're going to be meeting often outdoors and walking around the campus and collecting data and learning about the amazing biodiversity of our very local campus environments. So I think it's going to be exciting. I think that there will be a lot of challenges this semester. I guess as a biologist, I want you to take this adversary that we have in the virus quite seriously. It's pretty unforgiving. It cannot be reasoned with. So we really have to play by its rules. But I think we can do it if we are calm, if we follow protocols with a great deal of discipline and exactness, if we remind ourselves that we really are in an unusual situation and we cannot be in what we would call a normal situation, hopefully we can, limit outbreaks, keep them contained, keep ourselves safe. So as a biologist, I have a great deal of respect and a healthy fear of this particular virus. I hope you do as well. But I also think we need to figure out how to do our best learning and our best community building in this kind of environment. So I'm excited to work with you, and I plan to be your professor just like always. So that's the plan. Thanks.
Thank you so much. That was so wonderful to hear from all of you. So I mentioned that you've asked a number of questions both beforehand and some really great questions in the chat, rich and sophisticated about what it will be like returning. And so Ashley Beiser, the Associate Dean of Curriculum, is going to talk a bit about classes and registration and some other concerns that you've brought up. We'll also hear a bit about advising from Linda Hall, and then Dwayne Todd will answer some co-curricular questions, many of which you've asked in the chat. Ashley.
Hi, everyone. So excited to see you again. So I've been looking at all of your questions, and I know that you have a lot of questions about what your classes will look like, especially things like labs and studios, although I hope you got a little bit of a sense of how we're working those from the faculty today. And then a lot of questions about schedules, scheduling, registration, and things like that. So we'll talk a little bit about all of those. So I think that what you're hearing is that some things are going to be exactly as they always have been, right? You are going to get to interact with faculty, you're going to get to interact with each other, and we're going to be learning about sort sort of the new world that we exist in. That's sort of the premise of Dr. Anderson's course, as well as the How to Change the World course, is how do we use all the skills that you've been building for so long at Ohio Wesleyan to make sense of the sort of crazy reality that we find ourselves in. And the good news is that you're prepared for that, we're prepared for that, and we're excited to learn with you. So some of the things, as I said, are going to be the same. So a lot of, about 80% of our courses are going to be taught in person, and about 20% will be offered remotely. So you probably heard a lot of terms being thrown around, blended, hybrid, things like that. So I just wanted to make sure that we were all on the same page as to what we mean by that. So as I said, in-person classes are going to be, it's a little bit strange, right? We're all going to be wearing masks, which I'm sure is going to be awkward for at least the first 20 minutes. And then, you'll get used to it. We're all going to be a little bit further apart from each other physically than we would be in a normal semester. So, you'll be in classrooms that are maybe some different ones than you've been in before. I know I'm teaching in different classrooms than I have in the past. But we'll still get a chance to work together and to learn together. And the important thing to know is that all of the classes that are in person have at least some hybrid component to it, because they're designed so that students who are remote or in person can take them. And most importantly, they're designed so that if anybody is experiencing symptoms or can't come to class, that they don't come to class. We'd prefer that you stay safe and stay home if you need to. And so all of our classes, and faculty have been working on this, are set up to make sure that you can participate whether or not you're in person or remote. And so those are sort of blended hybrid classes, meaning that we'll be using traditional things like, I teach a lot of texts that haven't changed a lot in thousands and thousands of years, and we're going to sit around and talk about them just the same way we always have. But we'll also be employing new technologies and new tools to make sure that those people who can't be with us in person have other ways to interact. And I'm really excited to learn more about those. So for those classes, we're going to meet during our regular class times, and you should be there when you can. And we're going to find ways to get over some of the masks and things like that. Remote classes will be a little bit different, but still they're going to follow a set schedule with at least one required virtual meeting every week. And the idea is to create the liberal arts experience in a virtual environment. Because the good news is that we, as you've heard, we are learning every day how to do that better and better. And so you're still going to have lots of opportunities to interact with your faculty members, with your advisors. You'll still have lots of opportunities to work on your theory to practice grants and to work with faculty on individual research. And so all of those kinds of things are going to stay the same, but we might just be doing it slightly differently and in virtual spaces. As you heard, there are a lot of ways in which we're trying to prioritize in-class time for courses that, in-person courses for experiential classes. So music, studio arts, lab sciences. And our faculty have been working really hard to figure out how to make those kinds of courses that you need when you're further along in your career and you are in your major. And they've been working to make sure that those work for you. Our primary objective is to make sure that students get the courses that they need in order to stay on track to graduate. Not that we don't love having you here, but we want you to get out in this right amount of time, just like you do. And so don't worry, I think is my big message on that front. I know you have a lot of questions about your schedules and which courses are going to be in person, which are going to be online. You should already have received some communications about the courses that you're currently in that may be online. We're going to have another opportunity for students to switch around their schedules starting on August 18th when the portal will reopen so that you can make other choices. Now, not every course is going to be offered both in person and remotely, particularly if you are taking some upper level courses. As you probably figured out, you have we only have one section of those courses that are being offered. But the important thing to know is that all of those courses are accessible to students, whether they're in person or remote. And so you're going to do exactly what you've done every other year, which is to work with your advisor to make sure that you're in the courses that you need in order to, fulfill your majors. And so I think I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Hall to talk a little bit more about advising. And I'll just say that we're really excited to have you.
Hi again, everyone. We have been getting some questions with students who are concerned about courses for the fall. As you know, we're making some changes in terms of ways courses are presented. We've already changed the time slots to allow for 20 minutes between classes. That helps us keep people spread out a bit more. It gives us time to reset equipment in some cases and to clean spaces in appropriate ways. That changed our schedule around. We don't have a noon hour for any longer, for one example. And then we also had a number of faculty decide to retire this summer. And so several of you have experienced situations where you've had courses you had registered for that are now canceled. We will get you in classes. And the faculty are committed to working with you. The best place to start if you have questions about how to do that is your academic advisor. Your advisor should be able to help you decide what you need to stay on track to graduate at the time you are planning to graduate. And they can also help you find other alternatives. Faculty will also be able to give you some direction. Now, students have been especially concerned about teaching modalities, and faculty have been working for the past 6 weeks, really, each to develop a learning plan for each of their courses. Planning how to use technology, not just to let us make do to get through the semester, but to let us enhance what we do to get through the semester. And I think you've heard some good examples of that from the faculty who are here. We have a description of the course from each of those learning plans, and we're putting together a Google site so we can share those with you. Now, given that none of that is our usual process for creating a course schedule, we didn't have the technology to just click some things and have it suddenly appear for you. So we are manually setting up this site, cutting and pasting these descriptions, which takes time. And so we won't have it tomorrow, but we are putting it together. We will get it out to you just as soon as we can. You will certainly have access to that before you return to campus. Probably not next week. I'm sorry, probably not this week, but we're hoping by maybe the middle of next week, so before you return to campus. The portals, as Ashley mentioned, will reopen August 18th and 19th, Tuesday and Wednesday before classes start. So you will have time before classes start to try to make adjustments to your schedule. And that's all I have to contribute.
Great, Linda, thanks so much. Dwayne.
All right, thanks, Carlin, and good evening, everybody. So there are a bunch of things that end up in the categories that sort of end up in my on my desk here. So I will try to get through them in categories. Let's talk first about dining, because that appeared in the chat a couple of times. So dining is going to be different this fall. Different is an operative word for almost everything that will happen this fall. Most of it will feel different. So dining will still provide all of the outlets where we have them now. The only thing that's going to close is the faculty staff dining room. I'm not even sure the faculty on the call know that, so that may be news for them. But faculty staff dining room is going to be used for lots of staging that we need to create a lot of grab-and-go meals and other kind of takeout things that students may need in this kind of setting for the fall. Smith Dining is going to be closed for the beginning of the semester. It's under construction. It's getting a total new facelift in conjunction with the renovation of Smith West. So that it's a little bit behind and will be opening in September. So all the 24/7 dining is going to move to Hamwell. So you'll still have 24/7 dining. Hamwell, you'll still kind of enter in the same way that you do now, but instead of having utensils that you touch and serve yourself and all that, it'll be kind of a, orchestrated way that you go through what we call the servery area, so that people are serving you food. You're not touching utensils. We will have to be using disposables this fall. Unfortunately, it's a safer way to do this, and lots of students will be taking their meals and going out of the dining area, and so we don't want all those cups and utensils and all that disappearing all over campus. So we'll be using disposables there. They're biodegradable. But you'll get your food, and then you can sit in either side of the Hamwell dining area, or you can take the food out of that space and go anywhere else you'd like to. We're turning the Bennis rooms into seating for the fall term. So lots of tables will be set up in there with appropriate social distancing markers. There will be a large tent outside near the jaywalk where you can go outside and eat. In that location, again, marked out for you to know how to stay distant from people. You can share a table, you just need to be appropriately distanced from people while you're at that table. We'll help you understand that when you sit down with some signage and that sort of thing. The Bennis A will also have a new servery set up that will be staffed by AVI, and they will have food there for you, hot food for you to eat there, so you don't have to go through the ham wheel line if you don't want to. They're going to focus there in the Bennis rooms on allergen-free foods, vegan, vegetarian foods. So if you have special dietary needs or preferences, that's probably the best location for you to check out first, so that you can get your food quickly. And that is, of course, anyone's welcome to eat there, but if you're looking for a specific kind of dietary food to meet your needs, that's probably the best place to go to check that out. We'll be setting up grab-and-go food station or food outlets in the bakery area, what was the bakery area in the atrium of Hamwell. You'll just go in, grab a sandwich or a salad and a drink and head out, take it where you want to. The Bishop Cafe will still be serving food. There's reduced seating in there, and you'll see some dividers and all that, both in that location and in other places. You'll see some plexiglass things going on the tables, so that we can share the tables while also protecting each other, and you'll see them spaced out a little bit. In the Bishop Cafe, you will be able to use your regular meal plan. We did this last spring for a while for students who were staying on campus with us. Same idea. There'll be a portion of the menu at Bishop Cafe where you can just use your regular meal plan and not have to use dining dollars in there. So that's another meal plan option for you. Merritt Cafe, Science Center Cafe, same thing. Many more grab-and-go items that you can use your regular meal plan with in those locations. So that's how dining is going to work this fall, and you'll just have a lot more seating options that you didn't normally use before. Masks. There are a few questions in here about masks. Yes, we expect people, including faculty and staff, when they're inside of a building and not in a private space, they need to be wearing a mask. Your private space, if you're living on campus with us, is your bedroom. When you're not in your bedroom with your roommate, and you and your roommate don't have to wear masks when you're together in that space. But if someone else comes in, that's not their private space. They should be wearing a mask, and you frankly should put on a mask too. If you're in a public space, which are lounges, hallways, stairwells, elevators, if you're in a SLU, that living room space, that is a public space. It's not your private bedroom. You need to have a mask on. When you're around people, you need to stay 6 feet apart. When you're outside, it's okay to not wear your mask when you're kind of traipse into class and that sort of thing. If you're, walking fairly close to somebody, or you come upon a group of people and you're kind of in close proximity, it's best to put your mask on just to be safe. Let's not spread anything on campus. But we understand that it's safer to be outdoors, and you don't always have to have your mask on every minute that you're outside. If you're not wearing a mask, someone likely will remind you of the mask requirement if you're not wearing it where you're supposed to be wearing it. That is so important. We know that mask wearing is one of the most important prevention tools that we have to keep the virus from spreading. 6 feet, masks. Remember those two things. And the third thing is wash your hands all the time, like all the time. So if we can all do those things, we'll be okay. But the mask wearing is just really important, and we want you to abide by that. We also want you to stay 6 feet apart. And someone may remind you of those requirements when you're on campus. Please be kind. They're not trying to embarrass you. They're not trying to make you feel bad about it. We are all responsible for keeping our campus safe. And you know what? If you see a faculty or staff member who's not doing it either, remind them. That's important that we all do it. And I can't overemphasize how critical it is that all of us take responsibility to keep our campus safe. What that means is that, social activities, both the formal ones and the informal ones, the ones that happen, planned and on the schedule, and others that just pop up, they have to abide by the guidelines. Those events can be fast spreaders of the virus if they're not kept in check. So we cannot have those this fall, and I hope that you can commit to that and share with your friends. Fall just has to be different. It has to be different. And if we can let fall be different and be okay with that, we will get through it, and we'll have a great spring term together too. So just I want to mention those few things. Lounges and all of that will be open. You'll see markers out there that signify 6 feet of distance between seating and that kind of thing. So just respect those, please. Please don't move any signage that's placed there intentionally, and we want to respect that. The water bottle stations will be open. They'll be cleaned multiple times a day, but the water fountains will not be working. So rather than, taking a drink and slobbering all over it and having the next person come after you, let's use the water bottle fillers and bring your own water bottle. Commuters will receive testing like other students will who are living on campus. So we will share information with you about how you can sign up for a time. If you're a returning student and you are a commuter, we will offer you some times that you can come to campus for testing on the 17th, 18th, or 19th of August. You'll get to have some choices about what works best for their schedule. So look for that email here in the next couple of days. If you're coming to campus for move-in day, the very first thing you'll do is get tested. And I'll talk about testing in just a second. People have asked about the rule about having one person help them move in. The rule is one person at a time in the building. We're trying to reduce density in the building, so you can have one person with you to help you move in, and then you can swap out. So mom helps for the first half hour and dad helps for the next half hour, or whatever that works for you. That's great. Just one person at a time so that we can reduce the number of bodies in the building at the same time, okay? Testing. So we were planning on doing antigen testing, which is a type of viral testing that has a rapid response in about 10 or 15 minutes. The viral testing supplies are not going to be here in time for us to use them for check-in. So we are instead switching to PCR testing. It's the same process for you as the person receiving the test. So you will get a nasal swab with the PCR test. That test will go into a vial and then go off campus to a lab for analysis. Those results will be back in 12 to 24 hours. We have developed a partnership with a Columbus lab where these samples will be tested immediately upon arrival. And we will have results back a lot faster than what happens when they have to get sent off to a lab out of the city. So we will notify you about your results within a day. And you'll know whether you're fine to kind of keep on going with back to regular business, or whether you need to be isolated because you've tested positive for the virus. We will have isolation locations on campus. If you would like to isolate on campus, we will take care of your food needs. You'll have people checking in on you virtually, making sure that you're okay, your symptoms aren't getting worse. You're welcome to participate in classwork if you're feeling up to that. You're also welcome to go isolate off campus if you have somewhere you'd like to go to do that. You don't have to stay on campus if you don't want to, but we do have space for you to do that appropriately if that's your preference. If you have been in close contact with someone who's positive, then you will likely have to go into what's called quarantine, which is you'll be tested to see if you have the virus, and then you're in quarantine until the results come back. The Delaware County Health District is the name of the group of county health officials who will deal with the whole contact tracing thing that happens. So when someone has symptoms of the virus or is tested positive, they'll do their thing, which involves talking to that person about who they may have been in contact with recently within the past couple of days. They will then talk to those people to see if they're developing symptoms and that sort of thing. So they'll decide who needs to go into quarantine, who needs to go into isolation. They'll talk to us about that, and then we'll provide that space for that person as they determine it's needed. So that's how it will work. And I just appreciate your cooperation with testing. We are testing students, like I said, on arrival, everybody, and then we're going to do about 100 to 200 students a week after that, just not to try to catch every instance of the virus, but to really monitor whether the virus is spreading on campus, so we know if there are other actions we need to take to keep that from happening. I think that will be it for now. I'm going to turn it back over to Carlin.
Thanks so much, Dwayne. And you reminded me when I was in university, I walked into a public space without a mask and I had to backtrack and put it back on. So I'm hailing Lori's call to being disciplined. We're all learning. I want to remind you that the FAQ, which you all know as Smart Returning Students, is online, and we have already answered so many questions and will continue to. So this is just a quick reminder. Thank you so much, Elaine. And I want to get ready to turn it over to Rock as we are closing out our session. And Rock, I also didn't know if you wanted to say anything more about Delaware. I know you and Dwayne have both been in conversations with the health authorities and the mayor about safe practices in Delaware as we're getting ready to close as well.
Good. Well, thank you, Carlin, and thanks to all of you for being with us this evening. Special thanks to the faculty for sharing with us their plans for the coming semester. And I know that it gives all of us even more enthusiasm about the beginning a new semester and having all of you come back to campus and to seeing you back here. I will say in terms of the town of Delaware that, and I think Susan Ganasti noted this in the chat function, there's been an evolution in the community in recent weeks in terms of the presence of masks. I was in Greater Cuda last night where they've had a mask requirement since very early in the pandemic. And I think more people are wearing masks than before. And certainly we as the OWU family can model for the rest of the community the importance of doing the things that will help keep us safe. As we close this evening, I want to talk a little bit about the responsibilities we have to one another. And I'll ask for the screen sharing that reminds us that we are OWU. And I'll be re-emphasizing some things that have already been said by Dwayne and others. I hope you've had a chance to see this we are OWU statement that's been developed for us. And I'll just again highlight these practices that we're asking all of us to share as we assume responsibility for caring for one another as members of the Ohio Wesleyan family and of the greater Delaware community. When we're responsible to one another and when we follow these guidelines, we protect those who are most vulnerable among us. And each of us has the opportunity to fulfill our bishop responsibility. So again, just highlighting, wear your face covering. Dwayne and others have talked about the importance of facial coverings. Certainly there's plenty of science that indicates that when all parties are wearing facial coverings, the opportunity for the virus to spread diminishes significantly. We'll ask you to monitor your health daily, and as has been shared, you'll be given a health kit that has a thermometer. There will be an app where you can register your temperature each day. You'll be asked questions. Do you have a cough? Do you have shortness of breath? Other key indicators of the coronavirus. So we'll ask you to monitor your health daily. If you develop symptoms, to be in touch with the health center and to take yourself out of circulation until you can determine whether or not you have the virus. Avoid unnecessary travel. We've changed the academic calendar this fall to not have a fall break. We're arriving a week early, and most of you will be leaving prior to Thanksgiving. Those who need to stay for the final 2 weeks of the semester will be asked to remain on campus during Thanksgiving. We hope that you'll limit travel away from campus. There was a question in the chat about people who have jobs in the community, and we understand that some will need to leave campus for work and for other responsibilities. But we ask that you not plan weekends away to other parts of the state, other parts of the country. We think that we will keep the campus safer and more healthy when we all come and we stay here. Remaining 6 feet apart is important to help contain the spread of the virus. So you'll notice that seats in classrooms are 6 feet apart. In lounges, there are X's on certain spots where you're to not sit so that people can be 6 feet apart. I was on the 3rd floor of Merrick Hall this afternoon, and I noticed that there were X's in certain settings on the couches there, again, to help us ensure that we keep our distance from one another. Engage your peers in protecting our community. We have a responsibility to one another, and part of our responsibility to one another is pointing out to one another if there's a time when we see someone not abiding by these guidelines, not fulfilling their bishop responsibilities. We can engage one another, we can support one another, we can do it in a way that is caring and affirming, but also ensures that we're protecting the health of everyone on campus. Observe university group size limits. So these limits may vary as we go through the course of the semester, depending on whether the virus is becoming more or less prevalent locally. And we'll ask you to be aware of the university group size limits and to follow them. Wash your hands, wash your hands, wash your hands, wash your hands, and wash them again. Facial coverings, physical distance, sanitation, washing of the hands, those are the key things that will prevent the spread of the virus. And we've all seen the videos about 20 seconds for hand washing. We ask you to take the time to ensure that you are protecting yourself, and in the process of protecting yourself, protecting others in the community. And then finally, use kindness. This is a difficult time for all of us. It's a difficult time for our society. It's a difficult time for our world. People are feeling anxious. People are feeling uncertain. People are feeling afraid. It's a time when we need kindness, and there's no virtue more important to the Bishop family than the kindness that we can express to one another. So if we see somebody who seems to be struggling, it's an opportunity for kindness. If we see somebody who is not following the guidelines, and we need to exercise our responsibility to remind them of the guidelines, that too is an opportunity for kindness, an opportunity for us to think about the way in which we deliver the message and call upon one another to care for one another, and in particular to care for those who are most vulnerable among us, so that when we get to the other side of this pandemic, we can all be healthy and whole, and the Bishop family can be whole. It's important to remember that we are all in this together. And when we understand that we are all in this together, and when we take the time to care for one another and to do the things that each of us can do individually, we protect not only ourselves, but we protect those others in our community and in the larger Delaware family. So we are OWU. We look forward to your return to campus and to being able to claim that we are OWU together. And for those of you who will be remote, we look forward to connecting with you in that way and having you back with us as a part of the Bishop family. And with that, I'll turn it to Carlin as we come to a close this evening. Thank you again for being with us.
Thank you so much, Rock. And just want to say to you all, a campus is not a campus without students. It feels like a ghost town, even though apparently there are really compelling ghost tours of OWU, and I'm waiting for someone to offer to take me on one, maybe at a social distance or post-COVID. So take care all. It was great to see you. Be safe until we see you again in whatever capacity. Take care and good night.